Hi there, I'm Diane Stamens from Cake Connection in Jackson, Michigan, and today we are doing a gelatin flower class for you. Alright, first off, before we get going, because I always forget this, we're going to show you today's prize giveaway. Woo-hoo! We are doing a starter set. It has some sheets, which we'll talk about. There's a book in there, some gelatin to get you started, all kinds of goodies. So you can get going making some creations. Alright, so let's have Eric zoom in a little bit. This is just a sample that I put together, oh my gosh, back in, let's see, 2007, when I opened my store originally across the street. I actually accidentally figured out how to do these flowers. After I was teaching a class, there's an old school method of making a wire frame and then dipping that into gelatin, which I used to teach that. And I was being lazy one night, which is normally, I typically will clean everything up right after class. But I got done with class, I left everything sitting, and I had used plastic cups. Well, I came back in the next day and found that the gelatin on the side of the cups had dried, holding the ridges, which my brain just kind of exploded, and I went, oh my gosh, I had an idea. So this whole art form was born then. All right. These flowers we made, my friend Michelle and I have wrote the books. We've wrote 2 books together, and we made these flowers and actually went over to England to the huge cake show, Cake International. So we've been to England with them. I have been invited to go teach in Spain. I declined that just because of language barrier. I was very concerned about that. But we've all over the country teaching this. So today I'm just going to show you a brief introduction to it, and hopefully you will enjoy and create some of your own gelatin art. So, very simple method, not expensive to get into as far as what you need for supplies. You need some unflavored gelatin, which is like your Knox gelatin, just from the grocery store. Okay, nothing special. Some water and I prefer using airbrush food coloring. It just works a little better. Okay, so for our mix, you take 2.5 parts water and 1 part gelatin, okay? And it does not matter what your part measurement is. You can do it with, this is a 1/2 tablespoon, just as long as you use 2.5 and then 1 of the gelatin, okay? So I just have some water in here, and I'm going to measure out 2.5, and let me dry that back out before I stick this down in the gelatin so it doesn't stick all over it. And we're just going to sprinkle that over the top. Okay, Eric to zoom down in. Hopefully you guys can see that. All right. And I'm just giving it a slight stir. This is called blooming the gelatin, and what it's doing is soaking up the water, okay? And you can see very quickly it is turning like an applesauce texture, okay? And that quickly is completely set up. All right. So what we do now is go to the microwave, and do not leave this in for very long. All right. Typically you want about 10 or 15 seconds most likely. If you do a bigger batch, it may take a little bit longer. Also, it's going to depend how cool your water is. But you want to catch it basically just short of boiling. Okay? And when it comes out, it is going to look very milky and foamy. Hopefully this is showing up on camera. Okay. Then you want to let that sit typically for about 10-15 minutes. Okay. And I have one here that I made just a little bit earlier. Can you see down in there? Mm-hmm. Okay. We want to get this scummy part off of that. And there we go. That is just some of the impurities, okay? But now that we've got that gone, we have a beautiful clear gelatin to work with. All right? So we went from the milky foamy, let it sit, and let that basically scum rise to the top. Can you see down in the cups okay on the screen?
Tilt them forward.
Tilt them a little bit?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, there we go. So this is what we start with. This is what we want to end with. All right? Then I'm using airbrush color. All right? And I'm just putting in a couple drops. I do find the airbrush works better just because it's already thinned out. Okay? And I'm just stirring that in. Okay? A clear plastic spoon is a great indicator of what color you're going to have. I like working with those to stir it up just so I know. Okay, this is also getting a little bit thick. You can see where it's kind of gloppy. I'm going to put that back in the microwave for probably not even 5 seconds. Just to rewarm that back up. And you can rewarm this as often as needed. Okay. So there. Now we are thinned out. Very lovely again. Okay. You want to work with it about the consistency of a new bottle of nail polish. Okay. So, beyond just some food color, I'll shake that up a little bit more. Okay. This is just some pearl, some metallic pearl. Put a couple drops of that in. And watch here. We'll see what that does when you stir it up.
Tilt that toward me just a touch.
Just a little bit more.
There you go.
Okay. Hopefully you can see that. So now we have a pearlized, which that gives it definitely a cool look, something different. And then another thing you can do is mix in some galaxy dust. Some people call it disco dust, techno glitter. Okay. Now, bear in mind, if you put this in, at that point it's considered for decorative use. Okay. However, we are putting wire in this too, so at that point I consider it for decorative use anyways. All right, there. I don't know if you can see that on the spoon or not. Some of the disco dust, galaxy dust we got going on in there, and the shimmer. So we are basically ready to work with it. Scoot the chair over here so I can sit down at level. All right. This is what we call a veining sheet. All right. Hoping, is that showing up okay?
Better on the table.
Better on the table. Okay. We'll leave it there on the table. So this basically is just impressed in this thin plastic, and it's got different designs. We have several different sheets. I believe 20. I think we have 20 sheets now. Here's another example of one. This one just has some butterflies and dragonfly wings on it. Okay. But we have all sorts of different flowers and leaves, fairy wings, some feathers. So tried to get a good mix of things. All right. I tend to work with the bumpy side facing up on these. Okay. And then we are using 28 gauge paper covered wire. All right. If you are not familiar, the difference between paper covered and cloth covered wire. Paper covered, most likely you are only going to be able to get at cake supply stores, specialty stores, your traditional craft stores, Joann, Michaels, this type thing. They're going the wire in there. Sorry, excuse me, is most likely going to be cloth covered. Okay, if you use cloth covered with this, because this is a very wet consistency that we're working with, that cloth will literally come almost immediately unraveled. We have a question.
Can a silicone mold be used for this?
Okay, question. Can a silicone mold be used for this? No. Not consistently. I have tried. Every now and then I will get one to work, but for the most part, no. I cannot get consistent results with it in doing the silicone. Okay? You do need some sort of plastic. This, we went through a lot of research and development to figure out the right thickness and how thick we needed or how deep we needed the vein impressions and stuff. So we went through the tough stuff for you, getting it figured out. All right, and again, this is 28 gauge. You could also use 30 gauge if you're doing some smaller. I rarely, if it's a great big leaf or a heavy feather or something, I might use a 26 gauge, but not very often. Pretty standard, I always use a 28 gauge. Okay? Now, if you were just caught me cutting, I just cut the wire into thirds, because when it comes in, you can see it's, I think, 14 inches, I believe. So don't just waste a whole piece. Cut it down into the size you need. All right? So to do this, there's a couple different... All right, I've actually got to warm this back up. Every other day it's been too warm in here. Now it's too cool and cooling off on me. Or I'm talking too much. That could be too. Okay, one thing you can do if you have a lot of these to make, because I've done this myself, I've actually made a bigger bowl with some hot water in it, like steaming hot, and then sat my bowl of gelatin mix down inside of it just to keep it at work temperature longer, okay? Typically when I do something like that, it's because I'm loading up like, say, 20 sheets or so, getting ready for a class or something. All right? So, there's two different options you can do here. And I'll show you my friend Michelle that did the books with me. She will always go through and put a thin layer on. And then she'll go back down and lay her wire in. And then go back, whoops, go back over it a second time. Okay, and then let that sit. I personally don't want to be bothered with all that. That's just more steps than what I want to deal with. So when I go in, I load the brush up just as full as I can. I didn't wipe anything off. And Just work fast, work sloppy, and get it on there. Okay. You want to go outside the lines. And don't keep messing with it. Once it starts to set up, you will have trouble okay. And here, I'll go back a little bit more on. I want to show you what's going to happen if you just mess around with it too much. There we go. Okay. Is that showing up on the screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that that's pulling around on there?
Yeah, I'll zoom in
So if you sit there and mess with it too much and you get it clumpy like that, there's not a lot you can do at that point. It's going to be a bad one. Once it dries, you'll actually see those little clumps and stuff in there. Okay?
We do have one question.
Yes.
Is there a hole for the wire on the veiner?
No, there's no hole or anything. This is a solid sheet. It just has the raised impressions in it for the different petals. And I'm literally just taking the wire and laying it across there. Okay? And then once I have it on there, dip the brush in. Just get it very sloppy wet. And come out and brush. You just want to brush fast. Okay? And again, we are not worried at all. Let's see if they can zoom down in here and see we are no concern at all about how close we are to the edges or anything. Be sure you go past the edges. Just work fast, work sloppy. Okay? And then you can probably see, okay, this is the one that I overworked on purpose just to show you. Does that show up on camera okay?
Like that looks better.
Okay. So you can see where it's got those little like clusters in it. All right. That's where the gelatin was starting to cool down because I kept overworking and fussing with the brush. So that petal is not going to be any good. All right. So once you've got that done, you literally just set these aside and wait. Okay? Probably one of the easiest things for people, if you're very impatient, do this right before you go to bed. They'll be perfect for you in the morning. Okay? So once you've done that, when you come back to it, typically, and this is absolutely going to depend on, why are there two wires in there? Sorry. Depending on how warm your room is, if your air circulation, okay, what you've got going on there, how long this will take for these to pop off. Could be a matter of like 3 hours, may take more, 5 or 6 hours. Okay, it really just depends on the area that you're in. All right. If you've let them sit overnight and they are completely stuck to the sheet, not wanting to come off, I promise you they're dry. Chances are you made them too thin. Okay? And that's the biggest thing as far as figuring out, as far as learning curve. The main thing is just learning if it's too thick or too thin when you brush it out. Okay? So what you want, whoops, got two of them there. When these come off the sheet, you basically want to be able to bend them. All right? If you have cracking when you bend it, or if you go in to cut it and it's cracking when you cut, you are too thick. Okay? It should just cut right through just like paper. If when you go to cut it, let's see. It kind of like slides down. If I can hold these scissors open to, nope, I can't. If it tears or if it actually slides, if it's thin enough to slide down between your blades on your scissors, okay, that's simply a case it's too thin. Or again, like I said, if it doesn't come off the sheet, I get several calls. Butterflies are probably the most popular ones that people don't put wires in. So they'll come up, call and say, I've had this sitting on there for 2 days. It's still not dry. Yes, I promise you it's dry. If it's sticking on there, what you can do is bend your sheet back and forth a little bit. Okay, work it like that. A lot of times just that movement alone will pop it off. Okay? And if not, if it's just really, if you can't get any of it off, if it's just super thin on there, you can take it over and just swish it around in some hot water. All right? That will loosen the gelatin up and dissolve it. Okay? So, once you have these done, storage. You can, here I will grab a bag. Well, I'll show you my whole, this is different flower petals I have made literally over the years. Typically, if I'm doing a class, I'll make extra 3 or 4 sets just in case we get some late runners into the class or whatever. But I have all kinds of stuff in here. And you can see I don't do anything special with it. These are just some little mini Ziploc bags. Some of them aren't even in a Ziploc bag. Okay, they're just in a bag sorted for the different type of flower. They don't have to be kept airtight. You don't have to do anything special with them at all. All right? I just keep them in here, keeps the dust off of them, and works great for storage. As I said, and I promise you I'm totally serious, some of those are probably, I would guess, at least 8 years old, if not more. Okay?
We had someone ask, will they melt if placed directly on buttercream?
No, they will not melt. We have tested them on whipped icing, on buttercream, on Italian buttercream. They are fine. The one thing they will not withstand is water droplets, okay? If you have a commercial refrigerator that has a humidifier inside of it, that is too much humidity for these, okay? That may affect them because they can build up water droplets from that. But other than that, I have not ran into anything like other than a direct water droplet. If I've had some sitting near the sink and just forgot they were there or something, did dishes and had one splatter, yes, the water will looks like a little bug hole through it, okay? But general humidity, when we first started this, I had a lady in, oh my gosh, I'll say maybe, I don't remember if it was Honduras or where she was, but I sent her a few different sheets just to play with them. Wherever it was a very humid, rainforesty type atmosphere, okay? And I sent her some of these and had her play with them. And I also sent some that I had made and said, literally, I just want some feedback after a couple weeks in your temperature, or in your humidity, your climate and stuff. Let me know if this does anything to them. And no, everything, she'd send me pictures as, over time and through all kinds of rain pouring, not tsunami, but almost, just torrential rains and stuff. But they held up just fine, okay? So they're not weather sensitive either.
And then we had another question. Can you add a gelatin butterfly on top of a fondant butterfly body?
Yes, you can. Give me a little bit here, and I will show you that too. To add, I personally normally use gum paste when we do that, but you can make a body out of fondant. If you're doing the fondant, well, either one when you do them, we have a silicone body mold, and what I will do is just mold that body, and then I take a knife or something, insert into each side on an angle, just to cut, kind of pre-drill basically, and then take some piping gel and stick my wings down in it. Okay? And depending on where we are on time, I may show you that today, or we might just do a whole separate video on butterflies, because there's a lot of stuff you can do with those. What do I got here? 3, 4. And if you notice when I'm cutting these, oops, I did have 2 of them there. I'm starting up at the top of the petal, okay, and going down toward the wire. Whoops. My production team leader just showed me the clock, so we probably are not getting to butterflies today. Reason for that, for the way we cut, if you try starting down here, you're fighting the wire, okay? And that can get in your way while you're trying to work around with your scissor. So if you start at the top and just come down to the wire, you can get a lot cleaner cut there. All right? So there, we have some petals cut out. Scraps, just throw them away. I have some people tell me they tried to save them and reconstitute them with some more water, and it's not even a penny's worth. So I don't know. I'm not a recycler for something like that, I guess. So once you've got your flower ready, or your petals already, sorry, you can do some decorating to them if you so desire. All right. When you do this, let's see, we'll hold 2 up there, and I'm hoping you can see the difference. You want the wire on the back side of it, okay? So this one, the wire's on the back, or is on the bottom. This one, I've got the wire on top, okay? Here, we'll flip that over. All right, and it doesn't make a huge difference, but you don't see the wire as well if you make sure it's on the back side. Okay? So for decorating them, and I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do all of them. Okay? You can, if you want to do something just as simple as putting a few dots on here, using an edible food color marker. Okay, you can most definitely just do something like that. Okay, and you could be done at that point. I have some people come in and take classes and they don't want to do a lot of frilly extras and whatnot with it. Oops, I got my brush. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. Oh, I think I see one right there. Yes, I do. So if you were with us the other day when I did the brushed embroidery class on the cookies, you saw our little comb brush. I kept calling it a wisp brush. This is a wisp brush that has the actual cutouts up in. The comb brush that we're going to use is just thinned way out at the end. Okay? Little cup. So I am going to take some white food color, maybe. You're not coming out. You're open. Oh, it has not been opened before. I still have the end up in there, or the cover stuck up in there. Okay, and this is just some vodka I put in a small container. Okay, and I just put a few drops in. White food color by nature is thinner than most of your other food colors, so you don't need a lot of vodka. And reason we're using vodka as opposed to vanilla or water, something like that, we just want this to evaporate real quick. Okay? So I want to get a lot of my excess off there, but then I think you'll see this better if I do it on the table. It'll wipe up. I'm starting off the edge of it and just coming back in. Is that showing up on camera though?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this, I promise you, I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me do all of these petals of this. Okay, so I'm just starting off the edge and just lifting as I pull in on the petal. Okay. And that's just adding a little decorative something to it. Okay. Now, I do want to show you, you can airbrush these as well if you have an airbrush. All right. These started out as just a white petal. And for a white one, I would just literally add white food color to the gelatin. Okay, so it'll make an opaque. Another thing too, if you want any of your petals to be opaque instead of translucent, you would just add some white food color to your mix. Okay? And another thing too, this just reminded me, I'm going to jump back to this. Don't leave your brush sitting in your gelatin. Okay? If you do this and leave it overnight or something, talking from experience, call it like it is, just get a coffee mug and get some water boiling in the microwave in it and drop this down in it. Even if it's, like this one hadn't sat that long, but I've literally had them where it's like a rock hard on there. Just soak them in water. It takes, anywhere from a half hour to an hour, but they'll empty back off. Okay, so these are airbrushed, and I just hit a little green on there and then some purple out at the edges. Okay, but there's all kinds of things, you know, if you don't have the airbrush, you certainly can sit here and play with this. I have also done white ones where I have taken petal dust and dusted on the edges just to get some different colors. And then another thing I want to show you, I'll grab one of these other petals. These are Scrapbook Scissors, okay? And these, can you see that edge on there, okay? Okay, these are just some really fine, it'd be almost like a fine pinking type look, okay? So you can cut through this with that. There, you can see that. So your scrapbooking scissors will work. If you make a great big bow texture sheet, which we have some different sheets that will just do a solid, almost like a piece of paper size, of just a solid sheet of the gelatin, you can cut those with a like a scrapbook paper cutter, for example. You can also use your scrapbook punches with the little frilly designs on them and stuff. So there's tons of things. You can also use your punches if you've got the big sheet, you know, big flat sheet of the gelatin. You can use the punches to make butterflies. That way it's got little cutouts in it and stuff. So things you can do with this are just endless once you get going and playing with it. All right. Then once you have everything all set, you need some stamens. And typically, not always, don't yell at me for any of the botanists out there, but typically your number of stamens on a bulb type flower, the stamens match the petals, number of petals, okay? And I actually grab 6 here, or 5. 3, 4, 5. What did I do with the other one? Oh, there it is. Okay. So there, I've got 6 stamens, 6 petals. And then I just took a piece of my 28 gauge wire and I'm just going to tape that into this, okay? Just for some stability. Now, floral tape. And this, if you watched the other day when I was doing the wafer paper flowers, you already saw this is probably one of my favorite little toys. This is a tape shredder. And you can cut your tape down to either quarter width or half width. This doesn't like my yucky end. Okay. Got a good clean end on there and then it'll go through. Just one thing, I have it set to, I just have one blade in there right now to cut to half width. Don't ever put your fingers down in there trying to get the tape, okay? Be safe about this. Those blades are super sharp. They're literally just razor blades inside this, okay? But then you pull this through and you get some tape that is half width. And reason for this, you just don't get the big chunky bulky excess of tape when you're putting a bunch of petals together. All right. So we want to tape our stamens together. And when you're using floral tape, if you're not familiar with it, you want to stretch it and that releases all, not releases, but gets to all the glue, so then it's kind of tacky. When it just comes off the roll, it does not feel tacky at all. Sorry if you're hearing the sneezing in the background. My son is joining my world of allergies. And he's having a massive attack right now. They are hitting me hard. Last week, I'm finally, it's starting to get a little bit better, but he was out mowing his new big yard all weekend, and I think he's now paying the effects of it. So pardon his shoes back there. All right, so our first set of petals, we're going to put those together in a triangle shape. And tape that down, okay? Now, if you notice, these are very flexible, very bendable. You can move them around, you can do whatever you want, okay? And then go back in and tape in your next 3. If you are not that comfortable with taping, it is absolutely not a problem to tape these on one at a time, okay? Just when you put them together, you want to be sure that the bases of all of your petals are meeting at the same spot, and I will show you here in just a second what I mean by that. Okay, so if I lay all these petals down flat, they are all right. Let's see, we'll use it to point in there. Let me grab a blue one. Okay, so they're all right at the base of the stamens that I taped together. All right, and can you see that they're all on the same level? You don't want to put 3 on and come down like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch or anything. Keep everything level there. All right. And then you can arrange them how you want them. As I said, one of the really cool things about these gelatin flowers, if you make something and you grow these flowers out in your garden, or if you get some in an arrangement, whatever, but if you see some somewhere in nature and you think, oh, I like that look better, you can go back if you want these a little bit straighter, if you don't want them bent so much. You can go back a year later, 2 years later. You can put them, you can do different things with them, okay? You can rearrange them. They're fragile, or they're not fragile like that, so you can do what you want. Now, one thing, if you wanted to make more of a bud type and have these curved in a little bit, so I would actually bend those in, and then you can take just a little bit, you'd want to warm your gelatin up, but you can brush a little bit down here at the base and kind of hold that together, and that will help hold them if you want to do more of a bud look with them, okay? So does anyone have any questions on that? Or anything we've shown? Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, has everyone commented to get signed up for today's giveaway? We are doing the Gelatin Art Starter Kit. It includes a 5-pack set, our set number 1 of sheets. It has a bow texture sheet in there. It has some brushes to get you going. There's also our first book, Gelatin in Bloom, is in there. It has one of the bug body molds, a little bit of gelatin, and some wire just to get you going. Oh, and they are holding up a name. We have a winner today. It is Barbara, I hope I pronounced this right, Cripps, C-R-I-P-P-S, Barbara Cripps. You are our winner today. Woohoo! So if you would, send me a message on the Cake Connection page and just let me know your address and I will get this shipped out for you. If I hear from you shortly, we have to do a run to the post office yet today, so we can get it out yet today. So for the rest of this week, I'm not sure what we're doing Friday, but on Wednesday, we are going to do candy. So if anyone is going to try making some candy for Easter, instead of venturing out and buying Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I'm going to show you some different candy. That one, I will forewarn, might be a little bit longer because I just keep finding more stuff I want to show you. So hopefully you can join us on Wednesday. We will not be here on Tuesday and Thursday. We're dropping back to 3 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday, I've got a couple different ideas. I'm not totally sure yet. But Wednesday, for sure, we're going to do candy making. Okay? So, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope to see you Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.